It started with petty fines, fake violations, empty threats. Then one morning they showed up at my door, badges flashing, voices firm, telling me I was under arrest for breaking HOA regulations. What they didn't know? I'm a U.S. Marshal, and they had just picked the wrong guy to mess with. But let's rewind, so you understand exactly how we got here. Karen wasn't just an ordinary neighbor. She thrived on control, the kind of person who lived for rules, and when there weren't enough rules, she made new ones. The first time I met her, I should have known she'd be a problem. But I never imagined just how far she'd go to try to control me. It started with a letter, a crisp white envelope stamped with the Oak Ridge HOA logo in pretentious gold lettering. Dear homeowner, you are required to register your property under the Oak Ridge HOA and comply with all community guidelines, including monthly dues and maintenance fees. Required? That was laughable. I had specifically bought my property because it was outside HOA jurisdiction. But that wasn't all. On the second page, a $250 fine for failure to maintain property aesthetics. I looked at my yard. Freshly cut grass, driveway clean, truck parked neatly. What exactly was I failing to maintain? I tossed the letter in the trash. But Karen wasn't done. Within a week, my mailbox was stuffed with notices. $100 for unauthorized exterior modifications. Nothing had changed. $150 for noise disturbances. I worked night shifts. I was barely home. $200 for failure to submit a landscaping plan. Karen wasn't enforcing rules, she was testing me. Trying to see if I'd roll over and pay. She underestimated me. Ignoring her notices only made her bolder. One morning I walked outside and found Karen standing in my driveway, clipboard in hand, watching me like a hawk. She didn't flinch when I caught her staring. In fact, she smiled. "Oh, good," she said sweetly. "I was hoping to catch you. I wanted to remind you about your outstanding violations." I leaned against my truck, arms crossed. "Karen, I'm not part of your HOA. Stop stuffing my mailbox with garbage. I don't answer to you." For a second, her mask slipped. Her grip tightened on the clipboard. But just as quickly, she forced another fake smile. "Well, I do hope you reconsider," she said. "You wouldn't want to make things difficult for yourself." I stepped closer. "That a threat?" She gave a little laugh. "Of course not, just a reminder that this community values cooperation." I lowered my voice. "And here's a reminder for you. One more fake violation in my mailbox and I file a harassment complaint." Her smile twitched. Then she spun on her heel and walked away. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, garbage was dumped on my lawn. A week later, my mailbox was smashed to the ground. Then came the whispers. Neighbors looking at me sideways, muttering when I walked past. At first, I thought I was imagining it, until I ran into Jim at the gas station. Jim was an old-timer. He lived in the neighborhood for decades. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it mattered. He gave me a sympathetic look. "Hope you get things sorted out soon," he said. "Sorted out?" I asked. Jim sighed. "Karen's been telling people you've got legal trouble. Even mentioned a warrant." I froze. A warrant, that was new. The very next morning, I got a letter marked Final Notice from the Oak Ridge HOA Legal Department. Inside, failure to comply will result in legal action. Please be advised that a warrant has been issued for your continued refusal to adhere to community guidelines. Signed at the bottom, Karen Whitmore, HOA President. I actually laughed, out loud. Karen thought she could scare me with a fake warrant. I wasn't dealing with an annoying neighbor anymore. I was dealing with fraud, and she had no idea she was walking into a trap. A few days later, it escalated again. Friday morning, I stepped outside and found two men in my driveway, matching uniforms, clipboards in hand, cheap plastic badges clipped to their belts. One cleared his throat. "Are you the homeowner?" I folded my arms. "Who's asking?" "We're with the Homeowners Association Enforcement Division," the taller one said. "We have an active warrant for your arrest." I nearly laughed in their faces. The HOA Enforcement Division? Let's see it, I said calmly. The short one blinked. You already got the notice. No, I said. The real one. Court issued. Signed by a judge. They hesitated. That's when I reached into my pocket and pulled out my badge. Not plastic, not fake. A real U.S. Marshal badge. Their faces turned white. You just attempted to detain a federal officer, I said. Now tell me, would you like to be charged with impersonating law enforcement before or after I run your names? That was it. One dropped his clipboard. The other turned and bolted down the street. And me? I just smiled. Because now I had them. When I ran their names, I uncovered more than I expected. They weren't real cops, not even licensed security. They were part of a fake private enforcement firm Karen had set up, and they'd been pulling the same stunt on other homeowners. Karen wasn't just inventing fines, she was running an extortion racket. Here's how it worked. Target anyone who refused HOA membership. Hit them with bogus fines and citations. Escalate with fake officers if they resisted. If they still didn't pay, claim unpaid debts, seize their property, and resell it to HOA-friendly buyers. It was organized theft, and she'd gotten away with it for months. Why? Because she had help. When I dug deeper, I found a local magistrate who had repeatedly signed off on her foreclosures without verifying anything. Either Karen had him in her pocket, or he was too lazy to check. Either way, it was corruption, and I was going to take it down. I baited her. I responded to one of her fake notices, pretending to be intimidated. Requested an arbitration hearing. The next day, I got an email. A summons to an official HOA hearing. Not at a courthouse, not at any legal venue. A rented community center. Karen had staged her own fake courtroom, and she thought she had Ryu cornered. I had other plans. When I walked in, Karen was already seated at the head of a long table, clipboard in front of her, a cheap wooden gavel at her side. Behind her, 3 board members sat stiffly, pretending to look official. 2 nervous homeowners, people I knew she'd targeted before, sat across from them. Karen's smile was victorious. "Glad you could make it," she said. I sat down slowly. "Wouldn't miss it." She launched into a speech, rattling off fabricated violations, inflated fines, and empty threats. But I wasn't listening. I was watching, the way she fidgeted with her papers, the way her voice sped up when she read the details, the way she kept glancing at the door. She wasn't just trying to scare me. She was waiting. "Let me guess," I interrupted. "The HOA police are on their way to haul me out." Her eyes flickered to the door. Bingo. I stood up. "Well, before they get here, why don't we bring in some real law enforcement?" Right on cue, the doors burst open. Uniformed officers swarmed inside. Behind them, the assistant U.S. attorney stepped forward, papers in hand. "Karen Whitmore," she announced. "You are under arrest for fraud, extortion, impersonating law enforcement, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud." Karen's face drained of color. "No, you don't understand." "Oh, we understand," I said. "You've been running a scam for years, but today, it ends." The officers cuffed her on the spot. She shrieked, kicked, and fought, but it didn't matter. For the first time, Karen wasn't in control. News spread like wildfire. Neighbors came forward with their own stories. Fake liens, forged HOA contracts, illegal threats. One couple had been forced out of a home that wasn't even under HOA jurisdiction. Another had paid thousands in bogus fines to stop the harassment. Karen's empire crumbled overnight. Within weeks, the entire HOA board was under investigation. Within months, Oak Ridge HOA was dissolved completely. No more phony citations, no more fake cops, no more Karen. She tried everything, blaming the board, the fake officers, even claiming she was the victim. But the evidence was overwhelming. Fraud, wire fraud, extortion, impersonating law enforcement. When the judge finally sentenced her, she didn't get a fine. She didn't get probation. She got prison time. The same Karen who once threatened to arrest homeowners for breaking imaginary rules was now sitting in a real cell, behind real bars, under real authority. Meanwhile, the neighborhood was free. Homeowners got their refunds. Families who'd been forced out filed lawsuits. And me? I finally had peace. Every time I pass by Karen's old house, now just another property on the market, I can't help but smile, because in the end, she thought, she was untouchable, but she never saw the real law coming for her.